Nobody wants to be told that they fat, right? Nobody wants to be told that. If Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, I don't even know who's still out there anymore. All these places come and say, "Hey, you're fat. Come get our product." Nobody wants to feel that. They're not going to be like, "You're right, I'm coming." What they do though is they don't tell you that up front. What they do is they tell you all the things that you're experiencing, right? Pants tight. Okay.
Many people are stuck in the place that they're in largely because of the fact that they're not around people that challenge them. And it's not that they don't know those people don't challenge them, it's that they're scared to be alone.
I am going to make a personal commitment to execution over perfection.
Right now, my company is making, over $200,000 a month.
If you give me a piece of music, what am I going to play? And you put that same, piece of music or elements of music in the hands of Michael Jackson, what is that going to create? Little becomes much when you place it in the hands of the master.
Cool. All right, welcome to another edition of Believers Breathe, the podcast where the aim is to help people embrace self-awareness, self-confidence, and self-worth. You guys know I do that by sitting down with entrepreneurs, business leaders, executives, digging into their brain, trying to figure out how their mind works and how they're able to accomplish the things that they've accomplished today. Of course, we don't fall any short of that. I got a brother here with me, Adrian Davis. Extremely excited to have this. I think he has a lot moving, a lot going on, but today we're going to find out exactly what that is. So tell the people who you are, man.
Adrian Davis, as you stated, man, I tell most people that I am a serial entrepreneur. I do a lot of work with corporate America. I'll be in for a stint, but I got to go back home and see what new thing I can create. And so we were talking about just a couple of weeks ago that I am focused on this new university that spun from a conference called Momentum. And now Momentum University is kind of my new baby, and I'm pushing it because I got a lot that I want this to do. And I feel like a lot of people can be helped, and it can change a lot of lives from the individuals that go through it. So that's the newest thing. But as we talk through, we can go and dig up some other stuff that we got going on.
For sure. We're gonna dig with this, and we're gonna talk about how to get that corporate bag for anybody who wants to get that corporate bag.
Yeah.
So I hear this word serial entrepreneur. It seems more and more nowadays. What exactly do you mean when you say that?
Well, I mean, it's crazy when I'm starting to think back in my head. I probably have been either a part of or have started over 10 businesses, in the last probably 15 years. And I just love the feeling of building this thing from the ground up and then just kind of letting it fly, and hopefully, it grows wings and fly, or legs, however you want to talk about it. But right now I'm part owner in a publishing company, got real estate going on, the training and development piece. So when I say a serial entrepreneur, I love these new ideas, and I got a couple more things that's kind of just hanging back right now. But I love the idea of seeing a problem and being able to try to provide a solution for it. And that's kind of the lens that I operate out of. Now, some of that's probably because of the architecture degree that I got when I was in school, is that you look at situations in a way of saying, how can it be better, or how can you solve that problem? And so that's pretty much my definition of serial entrepreneur. There's others who probably say things such as, I'm just always on the go, I'm always creating things. For me, I get these lulls where I'm just like, all right, let me go into corporate America, learn something new, be able to give back to another organization.
Man, you say that like it's just so easy. I like that. I just go back, I know I'm gonna get a job. I'll go back in. So we're gonna build. Let me take this water off. I don't want to give Kirkland any free pub, but Kirkland water, if you want to give us a sponsorship, we can do that. So How did you get into entrepreneurship? How did you get involved in that? You got an architecture degree, which obviously has a lot of moving pieces that can put a lot of money in your pocket, and I'm curious, not only for you, but for everybody that I talk to that's an entrepreneur, where did the itch come from? Did you see it growing up? Did you see just gaps where you could be the filler? What did that look like for you?
Yeah, so a little bit of both for me. I saw it coming up. My mom had her own business for as long as I can remember. And we just actually resolved that one company, and it helped literally thousands of people. She had a housing counseling agency. And when I tell people that I've been working since 7, I've been working since 7. And now, they're not gonna come in and get her on any back issues for having kid labor, but I'm just saying, like, I was there on Friday nights where other kids were at games or where they were playing or watching TV. I was helping my mom make sure that there were housing sessions going on. So I was serving the drinks and giving out flyers and all this kind of stuff. So I just kind of got to see that just growing up over and over and over again. And I was in and out of that business even throughout college. And so the other piece about entrepreneurship, how did I get the itch? I was forced into it, man. I came out and I went through some bouts with depression coming out of school. My last year, I tore my ACL playing basketball. And so, University of Tennessee, they have amazing doctors and things like that. And so right away, it was like, you got to get this done if you're going to ever play again. You're going to ever, kind of be athletic and things like that. And so I had an offer to an architecture firm in Sarasota, Florida. And I called them and said, hey, I got to get this surgery and got to have rehab. Let me get surgery first and a couple of months of rehab, and then I'll be down there. And they was like, no, we can't wait on you. And I never received another offer in architecture. Never. And the depression set in because how when you look at a website, right, and you got that little lever on the side where you kind of scroll up and down, the more content that's on it, the smaller it gets. Well, I remember looking at my resumes and seeing how many times I sent out resumes, and every month it would get smaller and smaller and smaller. And I remember one time just looking where I had sent so many resumes all across the United States, and I was just like, nobody wants me. And that is a horrible feeling, right? Nobody wants me. And I was like, you know what? What am I going to do? And, me struggling with my faith, me trying to figure out, like, have I been left on my own? Why God just going to take me through and just leave me out here? And so my mom's organization was still there. And, God knew that organization needed me more then than I needed an architecture position as an apprentice, right? And so I came in, brought some new life there, and loved it because everybody kind of warned me. They was like, with your personality, you're going to be apprentice, you're going to be back doing drafting. That's where you're going to start. You don't got to be in the corner just doing blueprints and sending it off, and the architects are going to actually be on the site doing all this stuff. I was like, well, I'll get through it. Well, I would have been settling. With this company, I was right there interacting with clients all the time. And their problem was evident. They either wanted a house to buy, or they wanted a house to sell, or the third one, they were trying to keep the house from going into foreclosure. And so we got to be a part of that solution all the time. And so I just learned innovative ways to do it. And, I tell this story, especially when I'm doing motivational speaking. I was making $45 a week. This not 19 nothing. $45 a week coming out of a university.
With an architecture degree.
With a 5-year architecture degree. $45 a week. That's all my mom could really pay me, right? And I was staying in the basement of their home, and you just talking about somebody frustrated with life. And then I ended up getting a job at Piggly Wiggly, so I would leave working all those hours during the day, and then in the evening go work at Piggly Wiggly just so I can get some extra flow. And I was just frustrated with life, man. I was frustrated. I was just upset, and I just remember, going through that time and that bout. Like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna make it, man. And speeding forward, I remember looking at, hey, we're a nonprofit organization because it was a nonprofit organization. I was like, but there's a for-profit side of this that I could probably do some things. And there's that problem-solving piece. I was like, if people can't afford, and Nashville wasn't what Nashville is today. It wasn't popping like it was, but it was kind of on this up tick. And I said, what if I got into flipping properties and development? And that's exactly what I did, man. I started my first business. It was called Development Resource Partners or something like that. And what I would do is I started asking people, hey, can you pour money into my company? And what I would do is go out and flip properties. And from the profits, I'll bring it back in, and then you'll get your money back with some profits. And that's initially how I started. And I was doing well, man. I was doing well. So one half of my life was on the nonprofit side. So I was helping people buy, keep, or sell their homes. On the other side, I was buying distressed properties, fixing them up, selling them back, getting a profit on it on this side. And it was working. And that was like 2008.
I was just about to ask, what year was that? 2008. So I was introduced to the whole flipping thing well after 2008. So it sounds like you were ahead of the game with that, and you hit during a good time in Nashville. Did somebody teach you about going into flip, or did you just use the experiences that you were getting with mom?
Yeah, it was. I have a great mentor. Still great friend now. Still great mentor. He was kind of doing it, but he was buying like 4 and 5 property. I was like, man, I don't have that kind of money.
Yeah.
I don't have that kind of money right now. And he just kind of showed me some of the ropes. And was like, hey, this is some of the language. These are the people you need to be around. And the problem with that date, though, is it was too late in the game because we went through now an economic downfall. So now all the money that I was doing, and I was like this young dude, got all this money, no responsibility. I think I had just got married. And so, my wife and I, we selling on anything that's not water, not concrete. And so it's water. We on sand. We just living it up, and didn't have a plan at all to like make my money grow, make it sustain, anything like that. And when 2008 hit, I remember that one property, and I still have that property. I was about to sell. I was about to make a nice piece off of it. It was spring break, and a kid rolled by and put some spray paint or something on it. And the buyer got spooked and pulled out of the deal. Never got any more offers to buy that property. And from there, the bottom fell out. And, this is what you learn as an entrepreneur, man. You learn how to like succeed. And, if you're going to stay in it, you learn how to fail and bounce back. And so I was like, I'm not going to trip. I just got to figure out a way to get this off my plate. I was like, this is money sitting in the hand. And for lack of better words, I never sold it and was trying to. And that has started the foundation for the rentals that I have all throughout the state. So I realized after going through a couple of other educational pieces, trainings, things like that, depending on what you're trying to do, sometimes it's better to have properties that you want to just buy and hold because, the asset is there, the stream is there, and also you're helping people.
Dang, boy. That's a bag you getting I ain't even know about. So you still got that property?
Still got the property.
Where is that property?
It's over in, I guess you could call it North Nashville. I guess that's what you call it. Yeah, kind of like the North Nashville, off of Trinity, what is that? Clarksville Highway, Kings Lane area, around over there. And and I mean, right now those prices are just doing like that, and I'm just sitting there. I'm just waiting, because the beauty of that is, as I start to grow and mature into the business piece of on the real estate side, is that it has to be a win-win-win. It just can't be a win for me, because then the game is you're not playing the game well. And I know I can speak to you in sports terms. One of the epiphanies I got last year, just doing some more self-development on me, is that what I started to realize is that we live in this globe, and I'm gonna come back to it, but I gotta just kind of give you the context of this answer that I'm about to provide for you. We live in this space and we play this game called life. And the problem is we know the objective of the game, but we don't know all the rules.
That's good.
And because we don't know all the rules, it's like playing basketball. You know, the idea is to get the ball in the hoop, but you may start walking before you start dribbling. That is a penalty and you lose. And if you keep doing that, you lose the game. And folks are frustrated every day because they're walking with the ball without dribbling. You know what I'm saying? So they're doing similar things in life, and they like, I know the objective is to put the ball in the hoop. What is the problem? Why am I being called foul on? God ain't mad at you. He just set up the rules, and he's reffing the game. It's your job to get really good at it. And so what I've started to realize is that if I'm doing a win-win-win, I need to be able to win. The people need to be able to win that are there. And then understanding that I'm a part of this bigger community environment, or this connection that's happening in the United States or the globe, it has to win. And so when you are helping all of those entities win, you ultimately are going to get things moving forward faster for you. So, you know, when you look at stuff like that, I mean, the asset count that I have on some of the properties allow me now to say, can I pull from this to go buy something else? Now I'm not even pulling money out of my pocket anymore. And so, you know, one of the affirmations that I use on a regular basis is that my assets are outweighing my liabilities. And I make sure that I do it almost in an incantation type of way and make sure that I'm actually doing this with my assets and doing this with my liabilities. So I can always make sure that when I'm purchasing something, when I'm doing something with my money, as a major standpoint of it, that the idea is to make sure that the asset value goes up and the liability goes down.
That's good. That's good. So taking that, what was perceived probably in the moment as a loss with the college kid or whoever, spray painting the house, now able to like pool all of these properties together, cash flow these homes, use it to leverage other opportunities. What was the turning point to where you started to get into coaching, development? Because now I feel like what people know you for is developing people, developing leaders, taking ideas that people have, whether it be career-wise or as an entrepreneur, and wrestling with that thing, helping them to cultivate and move forward. So was it at a point financially where you were able to have so much real estate where you were like, well, I'm going to go do my own thing? Or did you eventually land in corporate America, gain some experience, saw the gap, and then started developing people? How did that all unfold for you?
Man, I just love, I'm a fan of my own story because it's not really me. It's, you know, I give all credence to God on how he just played this thing out, right? And so to your point, when that downfall happened and I lost almost everything except for my family, and it was kind of shaky on that, what it forced me to do is take anything that I can get, right? But the anything that I could get was something that I had wanted before, which was I wanted to work with the state of Tennessee. And so for some reason, I thought that was prestigious, and I was like, I want to work there. Well, I totally forgot about that request and just kind of put some things out there, and, you know, in the ethos, just kind of putting them out there. And I was like, man, where can I work? Where can I work? And I remember receiving like these alerts saying that these jobs were open. I was like, all right, let's go. So, man, I tell a lot of people, never do what I do, but I also let you know that when you were at the bottom, that's one of the best places for you to be if you're trying to bounce back up. Because fear is not going to be an issue for you anymore. Fear is not an issue when you're at the bottom. You're trying to get up. So, like, you're like, what else could happen, right? And you get that attitude of what else could happen. When that happens, like, nothing is now in your way. And we move so fast and so motivated when fear is not standing in our way. The problem is we're never at a point where I shouldn't say never. Most people allow fear to continue to be there. And so for me at that point, I was like, I just need something. I got a baby boy. Actually, I think my first son had just come, and my wife was trying to work, and I'm like, man, what is going on? And so I got a call back to be an admin for the state of Tennessee. So I was like, I'll take it. Let's go. Well, the problem with that is I had run a nonprofit. I had opened my business. And so all that stuff was on paper. And they look on paper and they were like, well, what are you doing here? And I'm like, well, I need a job. And it was like, you're overqualified. And that's one word that really got me hating that word.
I hate that word.
I hate that
Like
word.
when people say you're too good to be here.
Yes.
Yeah, that's something I wrestle with. But
Yeah.
go ahead.
Yeah, man. So, I mean, when they said that, I was like, do you think that I would be here if I was overqualified? I was like, I need a job. So I remember going in, and, you know, if she ever sees this podcast, she's going to just laugh. But the lady who's interviewing me, she came in and she was like, so we're going to do 2 parts of this interview. We're going to see what your actual technical skills are, and then we're going to see your soft skills. And so the technical skills was like, you know, type, answer a phone, that kind of stuff. And I was just like, dude, I could do this in my sleep. And they got it. They was like, okay, you got that part. So she was like, let me ask some questions. No lie, I said, let's not. I sat back in my chair. I said, let's not. You act like you did and you just hire me. And she was like, no, that's not the way we do it. And I was chuckling in my head like, dude, why did you ever say something like, are you trying to get yourself like kicked out of this office? But that's where I was. Man, Jeremy, I had no fear at this point. I was just like, I am done with interviews. I'm done with seeing people, talking to people, and knowing that they are just not ready to bring me in. And so she said, you know, you seem qualified for this role, actually overqualified. We'll be in touch. And I was like, all right.
Here we go again.
All right. So her boss ended up calling me and she was like, let's just be honest. You're overqualified, but I got 2 options for you. She was like, you can come in here and you can work in this role and you're probably going to get bored really quickly, or I can send you up to the commissioner's office and you work there. And she's like, the problem is you have no protection. I was like, what do you mean? She was like, because I didn't know how the state structure was. She was like, well, there's some positions that are protected and there's some that are not, meaning that if there's a change in regime, you out when they out, or whenever they say they don't want you there, you're done. And I was like, okay, whatever. I was like, I'll take it. So I remember talking to the person. He called me in, and it may have been the first game of the football season for the Titans. And I remember going to leave, and I told my wife, I was like, hey, order pizza. We're going to celebrate tonight because I'm coming back with this job. And she was like, word, okay. And I went there and I talked to the guy, and it was a great conversation. And sure enough, I came back with the job. That experience got me visibility at a level where I was working now, and I was over 2,700 individuals. Now, what I'm not sharing with you, or haven't shared with you yet, is that during that downturn, I had to go, or our family had to go on public assistance. I ended up actually being over the department that I had to get public assistance for and didn't even know it. They told me, it's like, you got to take off your jacket, go see the operations. I want you to blend in. And Jeremy, man, I got to be able to see the lady who processed my papers. And I never told her. She never saw my face. But I walked by and I was like, man, this is a straight, from the pit to palace type feel right now. I was like, I had nothing. I needed public assistance. This lady processed my paper. And I'm in a place right now that if I wanted to, I can find a way to make life good or bad for these people. And I learned then in my role some leadership tips right away. And the next thing I knew, I was just like, all right, I want to do some training and development. And that's exactly what happened. Was I got into training and development, and from there, my career went off. And I don't have a background in HR. I don't have a background in learning and development. Not then, but since I've worked with three of the biggest employers in the state of Tennessee, doing just that. And so I get to coach the executives. I get to coach the people who are making decisions for all these organizations. I work internationally, managed 12, 15 countries, doing what I get to do. And at the end of the day, there are some skills that are still the same, regardless of if you're in Mexico, Argentina, Japan, Australia. People are people. They got to get work done, right? And how you get work done through them, by them, for them matters. And a lot of corporate America and a lot of organizations are still not getting it right. And so that's where my passion comes. I'm like, I'll have a job all the time because people are not getting it right. And I'm here to make sure that happens.
So was there something when working for the state of Tennessee that you saw when you had that view that you were like, some about it ain't right, or I see an opportunity for even somebody as high as the commissioner or the people that are in the commissioner's office to improve and develop? What was the thing to where you said, this is such a problem that I need to be the solution for it? Was there a moment that triggered something for you?
Yeah, man. I remember in working with the commissioner's office, the part of the slither and people who know the state and the inner workings of state knows that there's so many little slithers that support the bigger beast called state government, right? And I remember sitting there, and what would happen is there were people who would they would try to call their senators, call commissioners, and they would just call, and there were people who were set there to take those calls. And when they was like, you know what, I need you to send me up, right? I want to go to your manager and to your manager. And so what would happen is right before it would get to the assistant commissioner, deputy commissioner, or the commissioner, it would come to me. And so I had a way, not major training, but just a way of talking to these people that said, I understand. I understand. Now, what I didn't tell them is I was just there like a year ago where you are, and I understand why this matters to you. But I spoke to them in a way where they were hot, they were flaming, and they were ready to come and march on Nashville, right? And they would leave saying, thank you. Can I call you back? Is there a way that can I email you back? And I'm like, sure. I was like, we want to make sure we resolve this. And so I started research because, like I said, I didn't know what it was, and I realized it was customer service. So then when I started in my next venture with the state, I started doing training, and I started doing training for the governor. And at that time, they had something called a customer-focused government. And I started training all across the state, and I was putting my own stories in. I was beefing up the content, and people were like, hey, I want you to train in my department. I want you to train for my group. And people would leave out of there like on fire. I remember I was just kind of on this tour where I was going around the state. I would spend the night, train 2 or 3 trainings a day. Then the next day, 2 or 3 trainings, and then head back. And I was doing that. And these people were almost like in like a mini church, when it was done. It was like people would come up and be like, "Are you a preacher?" I was like, "No, I'm not." They was like, "But I feel like rejuvenated." I said, "Well, this is what you should feel about your job that you are hopefully loving to do, because not only are you getting paid for it, you're helping some people out by doing it." But the problem in a lot of organizations is they don't tell them the impact of what they're doing when they're inside of the organization. A person who's making widgets, all they think about is I'm making widgets. But at the end of that line, that widget is going into an engine, or it's going into, a product where it helps. And so the end customer is feeling like they had a great experience, or they're not having a great experience because of that widget that person made. And if a person is not seeing that at the end, all they're doing is like, I just got one more widget to make, just one more widget to make, versus I'm making this for Jeremy, I'm making this for Adrian, and when you start to put your mind in that place, what happens is you personalize things, you give it a human touch. And so all I would do is make the content come off the paper and live for people. And that's what they were getting excited about. And so what I would do is I start to see myself kind of getting really good at that. I said, you know, what if I created my own content? What if I wrote my own book? And my first book was called Beneath the Surface of Customer Service. And it's a content manual on how not to just answer the phone, but make sure you're having a personal conversation with that person so that their experience feels real good, right? How your building should look as a person drives up. Do they want to be there right off? Or do they already have this thought process of, what have I got myself into, right? You know, and I use all of these analogies in there. I use these step-by-step approaches on how to just make your customer service make people come back. And, you know, we've seen the list of, you know, Southwest Airlines and Starbucks and all these places where their customer service ratings are amazing. And sometimes their product is all right, but the experience is so awesome, you just want to come back, right? And so I just teach people how to do that. And how do you do that with your personnel? So I started doing the external customer service, but then I said, let's start focusing on internal customer service, because we like family, right? We look real good on a Sunday morning when we go out, shake hands with everybody. But when we come back in, we fussing and fighting and chopping at people's heads in our own family, right? I said, the problem with that is you're not family yet. These people will leave your organization, and it costs you money. It costs your organization money. And unless you want to be the person responsible for that turnover, you got to find a way to make sure that people want to stay. And so that's what I started focusing in on. And that switch happened all because of a few phone calls that kept being brought up to me when I was in the state office. And then I eventually took the launch, man.
That's good. I promise I'm shaking my head because I tell people all the time that customer service is so important to me. And if I find a place, a person that is willing to make that connection with me beyond the transaction, I will continue to go back over and over and over again.
Yep.
And I think a place like Chick-fil-A has nailed it.
Yes. Yes.
They've nailed it. And just my pleasure at the end of me just saying thank you. Whether you actually feel that way or not, I think you do.
Yeah.
And that's enough to keep me.
You convinced me, right?
Exactly.
Yep.
Now I can give you more grace when you make a mistake because I'm used to this over and over again, you delivering for me. So that's good, man. I do want to dive deeper into that. So you're basically taking the idea that every piece of this assembly line, whether it be actually a widget connected to a car or a service going all the way up to the governor's office, you're taking this idea that every person is a part of this puzzle and that person matters just as much as the person at the top. I was in a training with the Ritz-Carlton, and they mentioned that if your principal at a school or the CEO of any company is out, there won't be many people to notice it, but let that front desk person leave that hotel and find out how it impacts a customer's experience. And so I think it's really important that you're helping people, you're helping companies to develop what good customer service looks like.
Yeah.
So when you go into these companies, what are you finding to be the trends? What are the problematic things that you see across every company in terms of what they're lacking?
Leadership. And I say it that way, just kind of making it simple. But, you know, the issue with most companies is at the top, they got great aspirations. They have great intentions. They're in the boardroom and they're talking about how awesome it is. We're going to serve our clients. there's so many levels between that CEO all the way down to the frontline worker. And so if you ever played that game where you start off saying something and then you pass it on,
Yep.
and by the time you get over to like the 10th person, what you said just
It don't
nothing.
make no sense.
No, you like, that's nowhere what I said.
Yeah.
That's happening in organizations. So when they leave out of the boardroom, they're super excited. Like, yes, we're going to go out there and do it. But then the VP says something to the executive director, on down. By the time you get to the supervisor, it's been diluted so much, changed, put a little bit of their personality into it. Depending on that person's management style, people frustrated. 5-6 levels down. And so, we're talking about customer service, but we're talking about also leadership, right? There's a way, and I don't want to train right now, but I mean, this is the stuff that I do all the time. There's a way that everybody needs to be talked to. There is a psychology behind it. There is studies behind it. You can say the same thing 3 or 4 different ways. The exact same thing. I mean, the English language is frustrating because of that, right? So if I said, shut up, right? Very different from if I said, shut up, right? My kids understand this. They playing with me. I'm like, shut up, no way. But when daddy put the tone down, right, now things change. They understand it. The problem is that we're using the right words, but we're not using the right tone. And that's happening through leadership. And so the thing that started at the top usually don't trickle all the way down. And folks realize that I got options, man. Especially if you're in a hot city like this. Or just, when the economy is doing well, I got options.
Yeah.
I don't have to take this. You're not going to talk to me any kind of way. Because either you don't know that I should not talk to everybody the exact same way. I should diversify my message. The people who you talk to and it's okay with, they like thumbs up, man, I got you. But there's a 1 in 4 or 1 in 16 chance that you're going to hit that right all the time. And that's some crazy odds. I mean, you're talking about 1 in 4, you're talking about 25%. You're talking about 1 in 16, you're talking about a reduced percentage that you're going to get it right. So, I mean, what I do is I try to just expose people on, hey, here's 16 different ways that you can say or talk to this. This person could feel one of these 16 different ways. And if you have multiple people on your team, you got to be able to maneuver and be able to shake and understand that today I'm talking to Jeremy, tomorrow I'm talking to Adrian. They're 2 different personalities, 2 different behavioral styles. The way they receive information is different, blah, blah, blah. And I really go in and teach them on how to do that because it doesn't matter what you're making. It doesn't matter if you're selling. It doesn't matter, if you're doing clothes. It does not matter. If there's a structure in place and people are involved, you're dealing with that quote unquote soft skill that makes really heavy and hard outcomes when things are not done right. And so we see there's a stat out there that says, I think it's like 68% of people who are elevated into leadership roles are not prepared for it. 68%. Virtually what we're saying is if you line up 10 people, 7 of those people are not prepared to lead whatever the organization or that department. That's crazy stat. 7 people right there are about to damage your organization because they don't know what they're doing. That's like me putting my son, who's 11 years old, behind my Mercedes and saying, roll on, man, give me some groceries. He's not prepared. And then I get frustrated when he be like, Dad, I didn't even make it out to the stop sign. I got hit. Like, what are you doing?
Man, it makes so much sense what you're saying. And I've seen it, up close and personal, bad leadership. And I've seen good leadership. But can you walk us step by step through how you convince these people in these high positions that they have a need and you can be the person that feels it? Because I think it's really important, especially for the audience that I have as a black male going into organizations where people don't look like you at the top often.
Yeah.
And you coming and knocking on the door to say, hey, your organization has a problem. Let me help you come fix it. Because I think a lot of people have these skills that we've obtained from different places, and we can pour into these companies, but people are just like, I don't know how to approach. I don't know the language of approaching these people. How much should I charge? Do they have money allocated for me?
Yeah.
And then just being frank, like, do they want somebody that looks like me in their doors?
Yeah. So I'm real big on, you got to know your value, right? And all the way down to being able to know why you're going to charge what you're going to charge for consulting or training or whatever, right? And if you're not comfortable with it, it's going to show. So that's the first thing. So the step-by-step process is, I'm big on networking and connections. For me, and I'm sure other people have other ways of doing it, I would probably say 80 to 85% of all my work is because of relationships. I talked to one person, either I coached them or I did some training for them. They saw me in a training and they told somebody else, or they moved to another organization. I connected with them and they was like, I'm in this role now. Why don't you come and help me? So that's one way. The other way, and I want to answer your question, is nobody wants to be told that they fat, right? Nobody wants to be told that. If Weight Watchers, Jenny Craig, I don't even know who's still out there anymore. All these places come and say, hey, you're fat. Come get our product. Nobody wants to feel that. They're not going to be like, you're right, I'm coming. What they do, though, is they don't tell you that up front. What they do is they tell you all the things that you're experiencing, right? Pants tight. Can't get into and they go through all these things. You like, yup, that's me.
Yeah.
And then they say, in X amount of time, if you follow our process, this would be what could happen. So what I do is I try to consistently show people some of the issues that they're dealing with. Are you dealing with turnover? Like, do you really wish that you would move quicker to market, right? Are things being slowed down because you're possibly having to put people on performance plans and things like that? Are your leaders really ready to go day one, or are you spending a lot of your time trying to get them coached up? And I'm just giving these things so the people are like, yep, wow, you're right. It don't have anything to do about me being black, white, or purple, right? Now I know there's an element there, but when you start telling somebody, hey, this is how I can help you, some of that starts to vanish out. Now, the issue is I have to make sure that it's so resounding and so piercing that it becomes something that they just like, that is so uncomfortable. I got to get this thing right? Mm-hmm. So, in my drip marketing or something like that, I just keep on telling them about that problem or telling them about those things that seem very serious. Like, those pants are a little bit tighter again this month. Mm-hmm. So I keep on doing that until they're like, hey, what you got going on? What's happening, right? And so some people, once again, knowing how people are motivated, some people are motivated because they want to have this status in the organization. Other people are motivated because they don't want to do a bad job. Two different motivations, right? So if that person's like, I'm trying to make VP, or I'm trying to make, president of my department. Different motivation from that person was like, man, if I get dinged one more time, this may be it for me. Mm. So different messaging, but that's how I connect with a lot of people. And, same thing with small businesses. Sometimes smaller businesses don't have the budget for an HR department, mm-hmm. but they're trying to bring people in. Well, especially for small businesses, a lot of them are started because the passion was there. They felt like they can really do something good, but they don't have the structure in place to be able to help to talk to the people, train the right people on how to do things well. Mm-hmm. And so I get to talk to them in that way as well. So, that's one of the ways that I do it. And experience matters, man. You got to have a track record, right? We're coming up on, well, there's just drafts all the time, right? You got the NBA draft, you got the NFL draft, you got all these drafts that comes up, right? And when you have these drafts, they show these reels mm-hmm. of what happened in the past. Mm-hmm. but they're not talking about the past anymore from the standpoint of that person is going to be a senior or that person is going to serve one more year. They're going to the next level, but they're looking at the track record, right? And so what I have to do is make sure that I keep that track record going. So, in a football sense, how many catches did I make, or how many yards did I stack up according to this, and how can I help that team? Mm-hmm. And I think the other piece of that element is, and this is a part of some of the maturation for me, is that if a person doesn't need a receiver and I'm a receiver, I can't get frustrated. Mm-hmm. I can't. The younger me got mad. It was like, you need me. They like, no, we got 5 receivers right now. We're good. No, you need me. No, sir. But there is a team that needs a receiver, and I need to be prepared to step into that slot. Mm. And so, what happens is your energy stays up when you realize somebody needs me. Mm-hmm. You remember I started off by saying, nobody needs me. Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted me. Mm-hmm. Now it's more of, who needs me? Mm-hmm. Who can I help? Mm-hmm. That's a whole paradigm shift now. So when I wake up in the morning and I'm going out, I'm like, who can I help today? Mm-hmm. If it's philanthropic, if it's my work, or if it's just me spending time with, who can I help today? Very different change, and I live a more fruitful life because of that.
So, looking into that, diving into that, let's look at the big companies, or biggest for you. What are some of the companies that you've had the pleasure of working with, if you can say? I don't know if you go in and train these companies, if you can say it publicly, but who have you worked with that had all the structure, had all the budget, and it wasn't a problem for them to put money in your pocket to do that?
Yeah, I'll just name off like automotive companies, right, who have literally hundreds of thousands of people all over the globe, right? Those are some of the bigger ones. I told you about state and local governments. Yeah. Like I said, I work with 3 of the largest employers here in Nashville on doing that. But then at the same time, I worked internationally. And so being able to do that, the problem with training and development for a lot of these companies is that it fits in that bubble or that box called HR. Mm-hmm. And HR historically hasn't had a seat at the table when they're making major moves when the economy is good. Mm-hmm. Because the numbers are not really there. They're not up front in their face. So if I'm asking for new hardware for, the assembly line, we can do the analysis on it quickly and say, well, what is it going to do? Is it going to save us time? Is it going to create more of these things? What is it going to do to help us out? And the person can come back and be like, well, it's going to save us about 30 minutes on every shift. It's going to push out about 4 more widgets or, 50 more widgets, whatever. And you can sit there and be like, okay, that makes sense. That's a good investment. Because over time, it's going to do X amount of hundreds of thousands of more widgets, and it's going to save blah, blah, blah hours of time, right? Mm-hmm. What you can't do solidly and validate it all the time is, if I transform this person's behavior, how much is it going to save the organization? Or how much is it going to increase what they're doing? So I'll give this illustration. I had a person that was in a leadership program. They were kind of, whatever. I was like, all right, whatever, cool. So I got, and once again, you got to be flexible, right? And I said, your personality is that you want to do something great. He had played baseball in the past. I said, you want to do something great. I was like, you don't want just this regular stuff. You want to play something great. That's awesome. I said, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to think of how you can innovate and make something massive, and then come holler back at me, right? Because here's the deal. They paying me regardless if he engages or not. Yeah. So when that happened, 2 weeks later, not scheduled, he hits me up and says, hey, I want to talk to you about this idea I got. He's in the Miami area. He speaks fluent Spanish. And he was like, we're not communicating to this audience. And if I can get things, put in this language, I can now speak to this audience and we can make X amount of more dollars. Right? I said, you have to make sure that the dollar sign is in front of you when you start to give this idea. But what if I don't ever remember this story or market this story, I can't show them how impactful I was, because if this department is set now because this person made a change, because I had a conversation and told him to be innovative, it's really because of the work that I did, right? Because he was just going to be like, let me just go through this any kind of way. Now, we're good friends now, but what if he's increased another stream of income into the organization by hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year? Then that means my coaching brought the company hundreds of thousands or millions a year. So that's tough for us.
Can't argue that.
You can't really argue that, but it's tough for me to say my company's going to do that, because I don't know what type of conversation I'm going to have with your person. That's going to either save you money or make you money.
So when you take a step back, so obviously you're in the trenches doing the work. What is a good leader? When you go in and you talk to executives, people that I'm sure sit in the C-suite or whatever the case may be, how do you look them in the eyes and see everything that I just did in this workshop or over this span of time doing leadership and development? You got it now. And I can see that you're ready to go and you're positioned to move your company forward.
It's that transfer when it's not about my accomplishment anymore. It's about how I can get things done through my team the way they need it. Like they have to have it their way, right? And when I see that transition happen, I was like, okay, this is masterful, right? Because I have a whole lot of people who move from what I call the technician, where they're used to performance-based incentives, right? If I create more of this, I may get a bonus, right? Or if I'm by the hour, if I put in an extra hour, I'm gonna get paid at time and a half, right? So everything is surrounding them. But when you move up, it's around, I got now 5 people and I need them to create what I used to create. And let me see if I can get them to be motivated to do just a little more than I do. So it's not about my plaque on the wall. It's about, can you obliterate my plaques on the wall, right? So if I was making 100 of these a day, can you make 105 a day? And can I get 5 people to make 105 a day? Because now I'm really giving back, because now it's not just me making 105. I'm really having my team to make over 500 of them, right? And so that branch starts to grow out according to the seed that they've become. But at the same time, if you're a bad seed, you wither up, you start to reduce down the productivity, all that kind of stuff. So that's when I really start to see people. I understand that people have their different personalities, their behavioral styles, their behavior types and things like that. And so what I tell people is, think about value creation. If you can articulate how you're valuable to the organization or to your team, then what will happen is you'll be able to work with that mindset all the time. Because here's the thing, if I know that my best used time is talking to people and making sure I'm pulling the most out of them, because like that last story I was telling you about, you're going to create hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars, then I stay in my lane and I stay in my space, because it's not so much about me, it's about who needs this in the organization so we can continue to make more of these streams, right? And so I look at these individuals when I'm in there to figure out, okay, where did you come from? Were you more focused on yourself, on your accolades, on the things that you could do, your accomplishments, and have you moved to the team approach? The other piece to that is people who can communicate the vision a little bit more, right? Some people can't communicate the vision because they're not great storytellers. And you don't, let me just say this, you don't have to be a great storyteller, but you do need to be able to tell the story of whatever you're trying to accomplish, right? Because it needs to be in front, not to get overly biblical, but there's a scripture that says, write the vision and make it plain. But in corporate America, they call it a vision statement, right? Same thing. You still need to see it. So in places you have it in books or you have it on the wall in the organization, people walk by and they read it, right? But it also says later on so they can run when they read it, right? So it has to be clear enough so that people know exactly what their marching orders are so they can do that. A lot of people make this mistake, especially leaders or managers, is that the stuff is too vague. And so the people don't know if they're hitting or missing. You know, going back to a sports analogy, and I love sports analogy because it aligns so much for the stuff that I do. If there's a person who's on the line, they got an assignment. Their assignment has to be taken into account of doing exactly what they're supposed to do. But if they're confused, that could set up a lot of trouble for a lot of people. And you're a quarterback. You probably have had some opportunities where people made that mistake and you paid for it, right?
Yes,
and so, you know, you get a stern conversation about, wait, you missed that assignment. You were supposed to go here versus there. But if you like, I just said block, man. He's like, where?
Who?
Who? And so that's what's happening in organizations all the time. And so making sure that they can clearly articulate what they're supposed to be doing, what people are supposed to be doing, and what they want. One of my favorite questions is when we're starting projects, go to the end date or the go live date of whatever that project is. Go to the end of that day, 5 o'clock, 4:30, whatever it is. You're sitting back in your chair and you have a feeling of success. That went really well. What all had to go well for you to have that sigh of relief? And whatever you come up with, those are the things that you start off with. So those become the marching orders for you to move forward to. So, you know, another entity said it like this, starting with the end in mind, right? So if you don't start with the end in mind, then you probably just going to be meandering.
Blindly.
Yeah. And so that's why I sit there and I look back and just so grateful, because all of this architecture that I had taught me a lot. When we were in school and it taught us, hey, this is what we're going to do. Before we put our pen to paper at the time, before we start drafting and all that stuff, we had a conversation with the client. What do you want? What kind of materials? This. Is it how many square foot? We needed to know all of these stuff first before we started designing. And so, you know, the same thing has to happen in organizations is, can I get a person to think strategically? Because if you're only working for the next play, you're going to lose. This life is a lot like chess. And if you just make a move for the next play, you've already lost.
That's good. So taking that same thought process, what are the conversations, or how do the conversations differ when it's a small business versus, you know, sitting in this boardroom with people that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars versus you're sitting to somebody that's working from home trying to figure this thing out and being able to get them to, because a lot of them are creating the vision.
Yeah.
You know, they may not have the problem of articulating it. I'm in a place where I'm just trying to create it.
Yeah.
What does that conversation look like?
Well, it looks like me being more of a partner with them. And so I usually say, hey, let me partner with you. I'm about to get into the dream with you. Now, a couple things are going to happen when I get in the dream with you. So if you want to make this a partnership, you got to be prepared for it. I don't like to lose. I am competitive. So if we say we're going after this, we're going after it. So there's 3 major things that I always ask of my clients, and it's kind of come back, and so it kind of stays as a staple. Motivation, strategy, and accountability, right? So I'm going to give you some motivation to make sure that today was a bad day, we get up, we got tomorrow, right? We can do it all over again. Or today was awesome, let's go further. Let's go higher. Let's go stronger next time, right? So that's the motivation piece. The strategy is, you said you wanted to do what? How you going to do that? Who do you need to be a part of? It can't just be you. How do you find those people, right? How do you get them motivated to get a part of your vision, maybe without you paying them a dime? There's companies that I got to come on. I remember there was an organization that I was working with where we ended up having a guy who was a former president of a bank work with our nonprofit for free. And we got movement. Organization got grant money like that. But because the vision was so clear and we said this is what we wanted, people will tap into whatever the vision is as long as that is hitting their motivational heartstrings. And so when you do that from that standpoint and people start like, yeah, I want to be a part of that, then what happens is you got to find a way to say, all right, I don't want to abuse what you're giving me, but I want to make you feel really good about the accomplishment that we're going to have. And then you ask them, what would feel really good, coming from this? And this is when you're building this team, right? Because a person who's sitting at home and they trying to do it on their own, I'm going to tell you, you won't succeed just by yourself. If you're making a product that you want to sell to somebody, that's a different story, right? But if you're trying to launch a business, you're not going to be able to do it by yourself. You're just not. There's a lot of resources out there that allow you to automate some things, but you cannot be a one-man band. It won't work. It just won't. So here's the thing. You may not have the money for hiring someone on, but you do have the option to learn how to speak and make your vision so clear where people want to be a part of helping out a little bit at a time.
That's good. That's good. So in having that opening conversation, do you ever realize that I need to walk away from this? This person may need me, but I really don't want to be a part of it.
Now, yes. Earlier, I needed money and I needed reputation. And so I worked with a lot of people that some of them I was just like, what in the heck was I thinking about, right? So, I think that's also a part of the maturation piece. That's also a part of understanding value. For me, one of my biggest deal breakers is a person who's not coachable or trainable. Because I know right away that I'm not good at everything. I've dabbled in a lot of stuff, but I'm not good at everything. And even there's some things that I'm good at, but I just don't want to do it. Right? I just don't. Not especially now. There's just things I've been like, I don't want to do it. If I can connect and partner with other people, I would rather, send it out, have them work on it, build this team so we can all eat together, right? That person who doesn't want to do it, that's a red flag right away. They come in, I feel like I need to do this. I was like, well, can I provide some coaching? Yeah, sure. And then I say, well, what if you did it this way? Well, I've done that before. I did. I was like, okay. Red flag, just waving in front of me. The other thing is when a person says they want to go into business and they don't want to work. They just don't want. They don't want to grind. They don't want to put that. And I'm working on my paradigm shift, and I understand that it's not as hard as you work. It's about the value that you can create and making sure that you have the right energy and being in front of the right people. But you still got to put some energy in. The work that you do on yourself is the hardest work you ever do. The people who don't even want to do that, I can't deal with them, man. I cannot deal with them because it's going to be in the midnight hour. It's going to be on the weekends. It's going to be on the times when you could be doing other things that you need to get things done, especially if you're a small business, that you need to put that time in to make your organization start to float, start to be visible, all of these things. And if you're not willing to do it, then I'm more engaged. I'm more connected to your vision than you are. And I've been there and I don't want to be there anymore.
Man, that's a bar. You gave a bar. The hardest work that you'll do is the work that you have to do on you. That's good, man. Before we get out, I definitely want to hear about your new baby with Momentum University. Obviously, I had the opportunity to attend the Momentum conference, and the energy in the room, I mean, it's unparalleled. You can't really describe it unless you're there. You can see video, you can see recap, but unless you're in the room, you really don't understand the type of feeling that comes with being around like-minded people that are in a space where they've started something, but now I got to hit it running. And so you've taken that project, that baby, and it has evolved into Momentum University. So what exactly is going on with it?
Man, I liken what I've just tried to create to what Disney has done, right? What some of these people are doing. People not going to the movies. Movies is an event, right? And now they're streaming it. Mm-hmm. Right? So now you got it chopped up over time, and every week you get a new shot in the arm of the favorite whatever, right? That's what Momentum is. The difference with that versus, Disney or anything like that is that I'm working off of the science and the brain science of how people learn, right? So you got short-term memory, you got long-term memory. We're trying to make sure that you're good for a long period of time, that you're a leader for a long period of time, not just for the next 6 months. Mm-hmm. And it's a 6-month journey. And so what we do is we bake this program where you have a live virtual session with people literally all across the nation in different organizations who want to get better. Either their organization sent them there or you personally raised your hand and said, you know what, I'm going to invest in myself and I'm going to go to this, right? And so what happens is the learning that a person will learn in a 2-hour, 4-hour, or even an all-day training is one time, it's done, and they're gone, right? Mm-hmm. We make sure there's 5 to 6 touches a month on the same topic. Mm. So, of course, the learning curve says that in 6 days to 7 days, everything you learn in a session goes down to almost only 20% you actually hold and retrieve after 6 days. And then eventually continues to go on down. So you remember the experience, but you can't remember, like, what did he say or what did she say about that, right? So in 6 days, I got something else popping back up. So that curve keeps doing this and it stays up. So the content that we're providing them now stays top of mind. And when you see it in the workplace, you're like, you know what? We just experienced that. We just talked about that. What did the professor or what did the facilitator say about this? How should I interact in this situation? Because now it's learning on the job, on the go at the same time in your own space. You can learn from your phone. We've created it where it's 100% virtual. You get emails with videos, and we consistently, I'm working with a company out of East Tennessee now that's going to be partnering with me where we have everything in your hand. If I told you right now, and I know universities are doing this now, that you can get your online degree just in your hand, you'd be like, okay, well, let's think about this. The problem is, and I know that you've been connected to universities, and this is not a bash on it, but sometimes people walk out of universities after paying a lot of money, and then they can't get a job, they can't get a role. And I'm making sure that you get real-time stuff straight from the corporate, straight from the state, straight from wherever you're getting it. And because you're getting it, it's like fruitful. It's growing right there in your hand real time. And so I'm super excited about that. Of course, it came out of the pandemic. So the thing that can look like it was such a harm to us, there's been something that is growing out of it, right? And so I see this going where it's going to scale to levels that's crazy, where I won't be able to actually put my hands on all of it anymore, because it's going to scale where I'll be able to say, hey, Jeremy, do you want to handle region over here? Do you want to handle this state, person over here? Do you want to handle this? Because now what will happen is, we've set up a structure in place where your content or your competency that's needed is going to be built where other people who feel the same pain you feel are now also getting the same solutions around the same time, and you're able to help each other in that process. So now if you're on East Coast and a person is on West Coast, you're now networking with each other and talking to it. So this person who may be in a company that at some point in time, they may have been trying to get over into this company, and they can now dial you up and say, hey, tell me how it's going over there.
That's good.
Right? So you got this huge network of stuff that's happening at the same time, and the learning is sticking. And the biggest piece is where we started, is that the leadership level of those people, those 7 people of the 10 who weren't prepared, I'm just trying to drop it down. I'm trying to drop it down. It would be good for me to get it where in a few years, we're talking about the new stats is 50% of people who got moved up are not prepared. Because that means I made a 20% impact on the nation, on the globe, because we prepared leaders to be ready to take the reins when they're about to deal with people's lives. Because, think about this. You spend your waking time at a workplace. And you're frustrated or you're happy, depending on how it is, when you come home or you get off of Zoom or wherever you're going to work these days, because that boss or that leader has either got on your nerves or has provided an opportunity for you to grow. Right. So I understand that this is intricate to the livelihood of the human resource, the biggest asset in an organization.
Greatest resource. That's right.
Yeah.
So how much does it cost? How do people get involved?
Yeah. So it's $1,500. If you want to just drop it down, it's $1,500 one time. That's crazy still. That's for 6 months, right? We got coaches, we got facilitators, we got people at universities who actually get coming over here to work with this university to do that. If we also have given an opportunity for a person who says, look, I don't have 15 bills put down right now. What I want to do is pay overtime. It's $2.99, a little bit more on the end, but you get to pay in your timing. $2.99 a month, and in 6 months you're done, and we're ready to rock, right? But I say this to people all the time. If you can put $1,500 down on any investment and it yields $10,000 or $20,000, was it worth it? So that person who goes through this class and they get a raise or they get a promotion, that's just like what they're doing.
I ain't worried about that 15 no more.
They ain't worried about that 15 no more. They probably gonna use it wrong, and that's a whole nother conversation. They're gonna go out and get another car, or they're gonna get something else. But to their point, they have put the seed in the ground in this app. Now, what's corporations doing? They're thinking, can I put 15 down per person and get 10 to 15,000 per person back? I'm like, hey, that's a nice rollover. So that's what we're trying to do. And my passion is that we can get the individuals that are Black and brown to start moving into these roles, because if they're part of the 6 or 7 people that are not prepared, sometimes their chances are not as they don't get as many chances to mess up as other individuals do. And so you want to have your stuff tight when you walk into it. If you come in now as your director of somebody, or you're executive director, or you're whatever, you're the VP of this role, they're trying to see, should you be here? And what I'm trying to do is get folks to walk in and say, yeah, I was supposed to be in here a long time ago, but I know I'm supposed to be in here now. And that doesn't matter. I don't care who that is. That is Black, white, whoever. You're supposed to be there when you have done the work. And I drill the people that are in there. I mean, we'll have all kind of testimonials come out of this past cohort, and the next one is starting in July. And so the way people can get connected to it is simply go to momentumleadershipuniversity.com. So momentumleadershipuniversity.com. That's the website for it, or you can just email me at or our team at info@momentumleadershipuniversity.com. And you got questions, we'll connect with you. We'll talk to you through it and try to figure out, is it right? Because we want to make sure it's the right person in there. Because if you get in there and you feel like you're wasting time, that's exactly what you're gonna do. Yep. Waste time, right?
Time,
yeah.
So I do a thing at the end of every podcast to where I write on this balloon. And what I write on the balloon is a word that you say or a phrase that you say that you've seen stand in between people and where they want to go. So one word or one phrase that Adrian has seen handcuff people, prevent people from taking that step to be that business development coach, to be that serial entrepreneur. When they see that vision, but it's something that's standing in between them. What is that you see? I'm gonna let you think on that. I'm gonna run over here and grab that balloon, and I'll be right back.
All right. Man, I'm sitting here smiling because I'm like, oh my gosh, one word.
No pressure.
I'm gonna do a hyphenated one.
Hyphenated. you would do that as an expert communicator.
Hyphenated. Anywhere.
Anywhere. So it says self-development. Talk to us about it. What do you mean?
Man, it literally is the catalyst that has taken me from $33,000 to 800% of that in my life. It's crazy when I sit there and I think about it. I listened to Jim Rohn every day for a year, just trying to figure out. Like, I always had this, this energy to go after it, right? But I needed to have the guardrails and put things in place. And I'm not even sure that we even have enough time for where I want to go with this, but I'm just saying, it was not until I started working on myself, not on my craft, because I was good with my craft. Whatever I was going to put my hand to do, I was going to try to make it really good. The problem was I didn't understand the foundation and the push behind making sure it got into the right places and I was actually adding value for people. And so when I started looking at me and where I was supposed to be, I realized that, an acorn is always going to be an oak tree. Never going to change. Problem with people is we're an oak tree one day, we're a tropical plant another day. We just keep on changing, right? And so we don't put ourselves in the right environment because, if you're going to be an oak tree, you need to be in a certain environment versus if you're going to be, a palm, right? And so self-development allows you to know what are you good at, what do you love, how are you going to help this world, and what's your mission in life. And when you do that, you'll come out of this and you'll emerge and you'll start hitting and talking to people, and people won't even know why. They just be like, man, that person is so attractive. Not just looks, they are literally attracted to you. And so if there's an issue that they're dealing with and you solve it, they attract to you automatically.
That's good, man. I'm gonna give you 10 seconds to answer. You talked about Jim Rohn. Awesome. Is there one book that you would recommend people to read?
Richest Man in Babylon.
I've heard the same, so that means I need to go pick it up. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop this balloon. We're gonna take the life out of the thing that stands in between people and what they want to do, and we're gonna make sure people get some self-development. All right, so tell people where they can find you, where they can. Well, we've already told them where we signed up for the university. How can they keep up with what you got going?
Yeah, man, I try to keep my life just kind of wide open on Instagram. So my handle on there is productivity _coach. On Twitter, we're building the new one for Momentum U. So it's U_momentum. And then the rest, like Facebook, LinkedIn, you can kind of see some of the stuff that I'm doing with corporations and, give backs and things on Facebook just under my name, Adrian Davis.
Cool, man. Well, this was fun. And hopefully people going to go get this bag.
Yeah. I want you to get it, man.
Yeah. Appreciate it.